Hi, I'm Kurt from Oz Armour and welcome to Workshop Wednesday.
We started painting the Wespe in its base coat of Dunkelgelb, or dark yellow. We thought we had enough for the entire vehicle, but it turns out we didn't. While we wait for more paint to be made, Daryl gets to work on finishing off the accessory fixtures on the mudguards. First up is the jack mount.
Little washer and a spring washer, so that won't vibrate loose when we're driving. You might remember we had this strap on here and there was a little piece bolted on here and another piece welded here. Well, that's for where the bolt cutters go. Jess has recreated what they would have had. This holds the handle of the bolt cutter, and this is to stop it sliding forward. And then there's a clamp we've had to dig out of one of our storage bins, a clamp that goes over like that. So what I have to do now is put in our bolt cutters and then work out the position where this goes. All right, so here's the bolt cutters that went on the vehicle. Original World War II set, nicely stamped. Goes in like that. And this is to stop them sliding forward. Pardon? Yeah, what did I say? Thank you, Bo. They're 80 odd years old, and something interesting about them is they're made of epoxy impregnated or varnish impregnated paper. But over 80 odd years, it's starting to deteriorate. You can see the paper peeling back here. You can see where they're starting to delaminate. We actually display these on the vehicle. A lot of people walk around, touch things, and that's okay, but we want them to last a bit longer. Very interesting that we're running out of raw materials, so they came up with different ideas on how to make items. I'll let these dry now and give them another coat. You can see where they've had a knock there. It's imprinted into the paper. I'll make sure I put a fair bit of varnish in there to try and keep it together. What we have next up is a wooden block for putting under the jack in case they're in soft ground or muddy ground. We've got a couple of corner blocks that hold it in position, and then the fitting that goes across to stop it falling out.
Timbered jacking blocks from this period are basically impossible to find, but luckily they're pretty easy to replicate.
I've been to the hardware store, got some pine, so we're just going to join 4 pieces together, run some bolts through them, and clean up the edges and whack that on. Right, I'm going to just join these blocks 2 together at a time with some long screws where they'll be hidden. You won't be able to see them, but making sure I don't put them anywhere near where I want to put the long bolt through that will hold all 4 blocks together. I was going to put a spade bit through as far as I can just to get a start the centre of the hole. If I put in the normal twist drill, there's a chance it'll wander off. Right, so we've got our holes coming through. They're looking pretty close to where we want them. So what I'll do now is I'll separate this and put this block back on the one we had, and then do exactly the same thing, drilling back the other way. Now when I drill back through the other side, I've got a hole that the drill bit should go into, and that'll help line up when we put the threaded rod through. I'm just going to try and feed them through. They line up pretty good, not too bad. All right. I'll probably run a sander over this, just tidy it up a bit before we stain it. But we'll just go and see if it'll fit in the holder. Rightio. That fits nice.
We need a different model of S-hook, but apart from that, it's all looking great. Now on to the next side.
Right, basically all the tool holders are on here at the moment, and you may have noticed it's got a bit of a wire that's being covered up so we don't paint it. That's for the headlight. I'm going to go get the headlight now. They're produced in America. They are the best copies you will ever see in your life. These are new made, even got the Bosch logo in them. The blackout cover comes off them. Steve will wire it in. We'll run a bit of shielded tube through here. You got to admit they look pretty good. Wiggle, wiggle. There's always one that doesn't want to go in. Right. Normally where they bring wires or something out on armoured vehicles, they'll put an armoured block, so stop penetrations for rounds that might hit and go in. I've just made a conduit. I'll just use some copper pipe. It's easy to bend, easy to work with. We'll have to take it off again to rerun the wire and that when Steve gets a chance. Just for now, we'll We'll see how it goes. I just made a couple little saddle clamps here. I need a little crowbar here. I've wandered through the museum trying to liberate some off other tanks. And I couldn't find, they're either too long, too short. So what I've done is I've ducked over to local hardware. I've grabbed a little wrecking bar or a little crowbar. So I'm going to modify this and put it in on this vehicle. So 1185. I'm basically hoping that this is just some sort of cheap Chinesium. It'll be easy to cut. This will actually come in handy for when we want to knock pins out and that, so we'll keep that in the toolbox. It'll work out. So 40 mil up. And I'll just go out and I'll grind like a point down on each one of those. Rightio, that's looking something like what I wanted. Got most of the lime green paint off, so I'll probably hit that with a bit of black paint just so it won't rust. And then we'll mount it on the vehicle.
The clamps are lacking the strips of leather that line the inside of them to stop the accessory they're holding vibrating around. We'll be fitting something similar later. Meanwhile, Jesse's been busy resurrecting these ammo boxes.
So they've got little clips. One little clip here, one little clip there. And they're open. So that goes in. And there's going to be a false floor that's like a timber insert with a cutout. There's a top sheet that goes here and it's hinged. So you can actually fold it up and out of the way to restock the ammunition. The way it's designed is so it sits on that and keeps it roughly in place, and then when you pivot it, it just misses the tip of the ammunition. You can see how they kind of work, a teardrop that way and a teardrop this way.
Repairing this thin metal is going to be a really long and tedious job. Nothing Jesse can't handle, but it's just going to take a while. At the mention of
timber insert with a cutout,
Daryl's ears pricked up and he unleashed his inner carpenter.
What we're trying to do is repair these holders for the shell cases. They go in the back of the ammo box, and what they do is they hold this end of the shell case from rattling around. So as you can see here, they've all rotted away. Here's one that I've done a little repair on. We know the overall shape. They have a backing sheet, and I'm just putting screws in where I need to hold them in position. And then they'll be fitted into the rear of the ammunition box. This is the last one I'm doing. I've trimmed off a lot of the rot and the damaged bits, and then I've just recreated the bit we want there. So now I'll put a bit of plywood on the back, same as that, and then I'll fix this onto the backing sheet. I made it a little bit longer in case we had to slide this either way. So that's pretty good as it is. I've had to dig out some of my old woodworking tools. They don't see the light of day much nowadays. Alright, just going to apply a bit of glue to the back and then screw them together. What I'll do now is I'll fix this to our backing plate. Here's one of the original ones. You can see the damage at the bottom. It's not worth trying to save it. That gives us a starting point now. Not too bad. It's sitting up a bit, but that's because it's warped and twisted. I'm just going to run over the back with the sanding lapper disc to make it sit a bit flatter. Still see there's a bit of a lump there. I might just give it a bit more. Rightio, so that's prepped at the back. It should line up with the piece we've already put on. Now we have to decide how much we're going to cut off the top. There's pieces missing here, there's a big hunk missing here, but we still have the general shape of the circles. It's always a hard decision to work out how much you're going to cut off, because things are only original once. So I'm only going to take off a little bit here, just get a straight line through here, and then I might come on a bit of an angle here. It's a little bit jury-rigged here, a bit unconventional, but supports it, and it gives me a guide to run the saw on. Right, that just gives a nice straight line to work with. Rightio, we've trimmed that off. It's sitting a bit flatter now. So what I'll do is I'll put some holes in the back of the backing plate and screw this to it, and then we'll look at making the other piece at the top here. That'll work. Go. It's still a bit tight, so I'll just do a little bit more sanding. what we have here is the actual ammunition box. This is the only original front door part that we had, but these had already been made up by the previous restorers. You undo the clips, pull back, and folds down like that. And as you can see, the circles that hold the shells, these pieces just go in the back. Fit into the bottom, push in firm, and then you've got this little spring clip that comes across, locks them in place. We will repair these bits here and put all these boxes, and they'll all be in position in the back of the Wesp. Rightio, next up is we're going to make some little wooden support blocks for the holders for the MP40. What we've got here is the two holders that came with our vehicle. The top halves and this bottom half here are all original, and the previous restorers have sleeved it, put an outside sleeve to try and save as much as possible, which is well done. We like that idea. And then this one they've had to replace all the bottom. But the good thing about it, it has the original clips that hold the barrel in place, and it came with what was still just holding on there, the original blocks that support the front of the barrel. This one is broken off the screws. Over time the wood shrunk and the steel's rusted and it split it, pulled it apart. So what we'll do is we'll glue that one back together with a bit of araldite, fill in some of these cracks. We'll use that again. It goes in this position here. This one here is one that Bo has made up for when he did his stool. Goes in like that, and then this spring clip at the top here locks it in. We're going to recreate what Bo's done because we don't have any of the bottom parts. So I'm just going to glue this piece back together with a bit of 5-minute glue there. Glue it back together, try and fill up some of these holes so the glue soaks in. This one here was missing a piece, it was just held on with one screw, so I've just trimmed a little block in there. You won't see it once it's in the holder, but it'll give us somewhere to re-drill a new screw, and I'll probably even put some glue into the hole of that, so we'll re-drill it and screw into it. I'll sand off the excess at the end. We'll come back to them when they're set, sand them off a bit, and we'll fit them to the two holders. We'll probably do the rear piece first. So that's the angle we want. That just gives me a starting point. Right, hopefully we're through as deep as we need. We can check that with our bevel, make sure we've got the right angle. And if we're slightly out with our bevel, I've got the ability to trim either way here to square it up. Right, we've got our block at roughly the width we want. Now we'll just work out where we're going to cut it here and here. You see we want to be a bit closer, so we'll cut through approximately there, cut that bit off, and then what we'll do is we'll cut halfway through the hole. We'll probably use this line here, and then that will be the angle there. gives us our bit. We'll just get the flapper disc in there, clean that up a bit, check it for length whether we have to cut any more off the back, and that should be pretty close. We'll get our piece there. This is going to drop into it here. So what we have to do now is take a bit of a curve off the corner here. So it's got to be curved here to allow this to come down lower to grip at the back. That's where we're going to cut it, and then we'll put a curve on this end here. Take a bit more, see how it won't go in at the bottom. I'm just going to do a little bit at a time because it's easy to take off and hard to put back on. Just a little bit more out at the back here. It's looking pretty good, I think. I think we'll leave that for now, and we'll move on to creating the next piece, which is this piece that sits under here to protect the sight on the weapon. Looks good. Taking it out. Right, clears that piece at the bottom it was hooking on, so that's good. Right, we can now fix this one in position and the original piece in position. It's in, let's straighten it up. That's not looking good. I can feel it split. Oh no. Oh well. The glue held, it's just the old wood gave way. So I'll re-glue it, clamp it, and then I might try with a smaller gauge screw or something like that to hold it in there. I want to keep the original if I can. That's the original one back in place. And now we'll just work out how we're going to fix this one at the back. I feel confident we can take this out now, screw that in place, and it'll be almost finished. Just going to stagger the holes so they don't split along the grain. I reckon that coming okay.
That's all we have time for today. As always, if you think the boys earned it, be sure to let them know in the comments and support the museum and their work by liking and subscribing the video. And be sure to tune in next time for your weekly tank restoration fix.
Sits in like that. Gotta love it.
So until then, I'm Kurt from Oz Armour, and I'll see you on the next one.